Good evening. It's nice to be able to be in front of you again. It's always a nice surprise when I'm asked to do these things. I ask you to bear with me. I have been getting up here and doing this more, but it's still getting used to it after not being able to get up in front of anyone for almost a year. And also my brain is not wanting, it's kind of clocked out for the day, for the week it feels like. Just bear with me. A little backstory of what I'm about to read to you is I have a friend I used to work with back home in Kentucky that was raised inside the Baptist church. His father was a Baptist preacher, but he was a very hard-set atheist. When we'd be out together, we'd hang out sometimes after work and playing guitar and everything, and we'd end up talking about these things. And he mentioned to me at one point that he had written something that he called an outsider's view of Christianity or outsider's sermon, something of that sort. And it piqued my interest, and when I got up here, I was sitting around thinking about it at one time and ended up messaging him and asking him where I could get this so I could look at it and take a look at it. And a little disclaimer is I'm gonna read this to you. Not agreeing with what he said, but I'm gonna read this to you. First, he's got a quote from Nietzsche. I'm guessing that's how you say it. It says, "If the Christian dogmas of a revengeful God, universal sinfulness, election by divine grace, and the danger of eternal damnation were true, it would be a sign of weak-mindedness and lack of character not to become a priest, apostle, or hermit, and in fear and trembling to work solely on one's own salvation. It would be senseless to lose sight of one's eternal advantage for the sake of temporal comfort. If we may assume that these things are at any rate believed true, then the everyday Christian cuts a miserable figure. He is a man who really cannot count to three, and who precisely on account of his spiritual imbecility does not deserve to be punished so harshly as Christianity promises to punish him." Then he goes on. This is my friend speaking. "I've never understood moderate Christians. Have they not read Matthew chapter 7, verse 21 through 23? Take a step back for a second. I mentioned that he's an atheist, but I tell you, he knows the Bible better than nearly any Christian I've ever met in my life. The guy was in his 20s and could sit there and quote just about any passage of Scripture to us. And kind of made me feel bad at times because I'm claimed to be a Christian, and here's this man who claims to be an atheist who knows more of the Bible than I do. Let's go on. Have they not read Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 through 23? Why deal with the inadequacies of an ancient religion if you're not even going to get its supposed reward? Do you sin? And the fact that it doesn't bother you bothers you. It should. You're not saved yet, Christian. No one is. No one is in heaven or hell right now. No one is holding their golden ticket. Judgment Day hasn't happened yet. Sure, you may have done some things for your God, but if you're nothing but a comfortable religionist, a Christless Pharisee, then your God's going to reject you. It's okay. Pastors may like to preach non-biblical messages of once saved, always saved, and how one little prayer can earn you a ticket into heaven, and they are convincing, but they're mistaken. If you're going to be Christ-like, at least read the words that your Christ spoke. What does he say it takes to get into heaven? Christian, what exactly separates us when it becomes our eternal destination? You believe the biblical God exists, and I don't. Your demons believe your God exists, friend, and their destination is clear. While I abhor the system that sells a title and a copy and pasted deed to a mansion in heaven for a small fee, I also just don't understand the moderate Christian, who with a completely clear conscience spends a few dollars and an hour every week for their spirituality, while acting as they please. They will follow God's morality unless it goes against what they want to do. Guess what? You could say that I do the same thing. Sure, I'll do what God wants when it matches up with what I want, but I won't do what he says if it's not what I want. Either way, I'm only doing what I want. I am still the Lord of my life. Religionists, you may preach the sins of tolerating homosexuality, but do you have greed? No. Jesus didn't have greed either. He didn't have a home or a nice car. He didn't have a computer. He didn't have an unnecessary jacket that, if sold, could feed several people several times. Religionist, you may rage against premarital sex and the godlessness of smoking pot, but do you hate your brother? According to Jesus, where exactly did "thou shalt not stun your brain cells" fall in when he listed the two most important commandments? Side note, on stunning brain cells, read John 2, verses 1 through 11. Was Jesus more concerned about the damnable pleasures of life, or was he more concerned with being a friend? It's clear that you don't have to be perfect to get into heaven. But you have to care. You have to try. You have to love your God and listen to what he says and try to obey. And with eternal hellfire underneath, I don't understand why more care isn't in the situation. And then he has a side note as well down here. It's not a golden ticket in life, but in the afterlife. In the dogmas of grace and love, I agree, that does exist. But where's the line? How much can I get away with? If I was a believer, I wouldn't risk anything. If I thought hell or heaven was on the line, that's what Nietzsche was saying there, he thinks. But reading this, it gives us an idea of what others see when they look at Christians today. And why should they believe? Because what he said is true. We have Christians, or those who claim to be Christians, who don't know the Bible. They don't open the Bible. We tend to just come Sunday morning, maybe for class if we're feeling like it. Maybe Sunday night, it all depends. Sometimes we come on Wednesday nights, it also all depends. Sometimes we just do it out of habit. Sometimes it's like, I was raised this way, and it's just a habit. I get up every Sunday morning, go to church, sit there, kind of zone out a little bit, go through. With off comes the church clothes, off comes the Christian attitude. We have those who claim to be Christians who go out into the workplace, they have filthy mouths. I've seen those members of the churches of Christ who claim to be deacons and elders. They go to work, be cussing like a sailor. Have they ever read Ephesians 4, verse 29 to 31? And others see this. And they see, well, you don't even follow the teachings of your own word. Why would I want any part of that? And they also see a judgmental side of us. And it just pushes those away. Whether it be that they're Christians, quote unquote, who don't follow the truths of the Bible, or whether they're atheists, Buddhists, Islamists, whatever it is that they are. They see a judgmental person who's not even living what they're judging by. Oh, you don't believe in God? And they see that person, they're like, you believe in God, but you're having premarital sex. You believe in God, but you go out and get drunk every weekend with us. You believe in God, but you got a potty mouth. You say that you believe in God, but do you know what his laws are? The fact that someone who claims to be an atheist made me feel terrible that he knows more of the Bible than I do. Yeah, I can quote a few scriptures because it's ones that I've heard my whole life, and I've studied a little bit. But have I read as much as I should have? No, I'm guilty. Have I just read and not understood? Just kind of zoned out as I'm reading? It happens a lot. We're supposed to read and understand. We're told to be ready always to give a reason for the hope that's in us. That's what we have. We have hope. We should want to share that with those around us. But whenever we're being judgmental and being hypocritical, it's not doing anything but pushing them away. It makes me think, how do we feel whenever we're starting a new job or something like that, and we're just going throughout and trying to do something, and there's that one person that's just like, oh, you're doing it wrong. That's not how you do it. And they're looking down their nose at you as they're doing these things. And it's just, may seem subtle at times, but other times they seem harsh. And that's how we come across sometimes to other people who claim to be non-believers, and those of us who claim to be Christians at times. We don't live what we're supposed to live by. Yeah, we make mistakes. It's going to happen. I've made more than my fair share of mistakes. I continue to make them. But when we go through our everyday lives, what is it that we're told that we're supposed to do? Go ye therefore into all the world, preaching and teaching. He who believes and is baptized shall be saved, but he who believes not shall be condemned. We're told to share it with meekness and love. Do all things, meekness and love. Sometimes it seems that we look down our nose, or we're extremely harsh. And I'm guilty of it. Yes, we need to say what we're going to say to people. We need to say the truth and always speak the truth, but we've got to have tact or we're just pushing them away. There's souls that could have been saved that have just been pushed away because someone just went up to them and pointed out the sin in their life without explaining, without first showing them the love of God. We see inside of 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 1 through 5. Let a man so consider us as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required of stewards that one be found faithful. But with me it is a very small thing that I should be judged by you or by a human court. In fact, I do not even judge myself. For I know nothing against myself, yet I am not justified by this. But he who judges me is the Lord. Therefore judge nothing before the time, until the Lord comes, who will both bring the light to the hidden things of darkness and reveal the counsels of the hearts. Then each one's praise will come from God. It's not our place to judge another person. Yes, they may be an atheist. Yes, they may be a Buddhist. They may be some denominational Christian who's we don't agree with what they're preaching, but do we know the Bible? Do we know why we believe what we believe? And are we looking at the sin in our own life before we point out the sin in others' lives, whether they be another Christian or whether they be someone who is sinful? Our job as Christians is to spread the word and show others the love that God has blessed us with, the hope that he's given us. When we think of that, I think of all that God's done for me, and I just don't even know what to say half the time. He's blessed me so much. Without him, I'd probably be in a terrible place right now. And we should want to share that love. We should want to know why he did what he did. We're supposed to study this word, know this word. How can I live the law if I don't know the law? We're supposed to share it. When we see, I'm not trying to bash anyone. I'm not talking at anyone. I don't know anyone here that well right now. I'm just saying that as Christians, we need to watch how we act. We may not mean to come across how we do. I come across extremely harsh sometimes. I try to work on it. But we need to watch how we come across and not be judgmental to those who we're trying to talk to. I've heard the term holier than thou. Well, I'm a Christian. I've got a home after this life ends. Oh, but did you mention that you're getting drunk every Friday night with your buddies, that you're having sexual relations outside of your marriage, that you're having potty mouth, putting others down, crushing them, making them feel like they're 2 inches tall? Oh, but you've got a reward in heaven. But is that what the Bible says? But just because someone else doesn't believe, we sometimes feel like we're better than them. That's how it comes across. Just because someone believes in something else, sometimes we come across as feeling that we're better than they are, when we are in no way better than anyone. I have no more right to heaven than that atheist person down the street. I have no more right to heaven than anyone else on this earth. I'm just as weak and sinful, but I've seen the light. Someone loved me enough that they showed me the truth. They showed me the hope that I have, the gift that I can have. And they didn't show me by immediately being, oh, you shouldn't do that. I don't do that because I'm a Christian. No, they show you with love at first. My parents taught me. They taught me with love first. This is why we do what we do. And here's where it says it. Big thing with people today, the reason that they don't believe is not only because of the judgmental attitudes of some Christians, and it's not everyone. There's Christians that are the most nicest people you ever meet. They'll teach you with love and understanding, but they'll be firm in what they say. It's all about having tact. You've got to speak the truth, but speak the truth with love so that you can win souls. There's some that's not going to come. There's some that's going to turn away. And yes, there's sin in our lives. But we have to be working on that. Yes, we're not going to ever know all of the mysteries of the Bible. But some of it's pretty simple. It's very literal in what it means. And many that don't come to the Lord because they're not given the proof that they need. There's plenty of proofs of how God does exist. Look around us. I think about it many times, being in the medical profession, how the body works perfectly in coordination with itself. Everything is perfectly coordinated. It doesn't just happen on accident. Yeah, it messes up because that's usually things that we did to it. How does this earth, the ground, the soil, give seed to vegetables, give seed to grass, vegetation? Vegetation puts off oxygen and takes in carbon dioxide. We breathe in that oxygen and give out the carbon dioxide that it needs. We eat the vegetation. We eat the animals that eat the vegetation. One of those dies, turns back into dirt. The waste from eating that turns into fertilizer. Everything works perfectly together. And there's so many proofs within inside of the Bible, if we would just studied many times, that we would see. How in Isaiah, many times the world was thought to be flat. But in Isaiah it said God stood over the circle of the earth. There's mention inside the Old Testament of how the water droplets collect to the dust and falls as rain. We didn't know for the longest time until we had ways to go up into the clouds and find out that rain is caused by water droplets attaching onto dust. There's so many proofs inside of this word. I don't claim to know nearly as many as there is inside this word. Like I said, I've got to study more. No matter how busy my life is, I've got to study more to know why I have the hope that I have. I guess what I'm trying to say tonight, I'm not trying to preach at you. Like, classes are not always my strongest suit. I'm not trying to preach at anyone or preach at y'all. Is that we've got to watch how we act and how we're living our lives. Because we are Christians and we do claim to live a life different than the rest of the world. We've got to show that we're living a life different than the rest of the world. Because we claim to be living that life, we're held to a higher standard. Someone sees an atheist and they're doing their own thing. They're getting drunk. They're having sex outside of wedlock. They're smoking. They're doing whatever they want with their lives. There's no repercussions on anyone else but themselves. But us, whenever we do those things, we're not only hurting our own souls, we're also causing harm. We're scarring the name of Christianity, number one. But we're scarring those around us. We're scarring those who could have come to know God. No matter what we might think, there's someone that's always looking at us. There's someone who looks up to us. It may seem like in this world that no one looks up to us anymore, that Christians are just persecuted, like no one wants anything to do with that life. But someone is watching you, and someone looks up to the way that we act, how we're different. People notice that. Just know that we're held to a higher standard. And if we're going to claim to be a Christian and be a servant of the Lord, we've got to act like it. We've got to know what those actions that we need to do are. If someone were to come up to me and ask me, why do you believe in God? I have to ask myself, would I have an answer? Would I have a legitimate answer? Or would I be grasping at straws? Just like, well, I don't really know. Well, that's what Mommy and Daddy always believed, so I guess I inherited it. If someone were to come up to me and ask me, why do you believe that you have to be baptized to be saved? I should be able to point out those verses. If someone were to ask me, why don't you use instruments in worship? I should be able to point out those verses. If someone were to ask me any question about why I believe what I believe, be ready always to give an answer for the hope that is in you. Always. We're told in 2 Timothy chapter 4 to preach the word, to be ready in season and out of season. Reprove, rebuke, and exhort with all long-suffering. See that word there? All long-suffering, with patience. We have to be ready at all times to give an answer, whether it's convenient for us or not. And it takes time, and it takes effort. As Christians, we just have to be able to show the truth, be firm in the truth, but do it in a way that's not going to push others away. I thank you again for bearing with me another week. Once again, it's like I said, sometimes classes aren't my strongest suit. It's hard for me to come up with class topics. Many times the topics I come up with are something that are used for a sermon, so I feel like I'm preaching at you, and I'm sorry. But all I ask is that we remember someone's watching us, and our actions lead into a conversation that brings someone's soul to Christ. And the way I always like to look at it is, what if that soul was mine? What if it was me who was the one who didn't believe in God? What if it was me who was the one living a life in sin? Wouldn't I want someone to save me? Wouldn't I want someone to save me? So as we go through this life, let's be the one who is an example. Let's be that one who is different. And share the word every chance that we get. And know the word so we can share it accurately. That's all I've got tonight. Short, I'm sorry.